I mean, really what motivated us was the size of the problem.
Why is there so much microplastic pollution? How did we get to this point?
It's tough sometimes to make plastic the enemy. That being said, 8 out of 10 people have microplastics in their blood. Pretty much all of fish have ingested some sort of microplastic in their lifetime.
This is a big problem.
It's shocking. It's scary. What are we going to do now to stop it? The time is really now to make a change.
How big an impact do you think you can make?
We have the opportunity to reduce and remove the single largest point source of microplastics into the environment. Our goal is to have a microplastics filter in every washing machine that's produced globally. And we think it's a problem that has a clear solution that's available now.
Let's start with the product. So can you provide us an overview of CleanR's technology and how it works?
Yeah. So, I mean, first, it's a washing machine microplastics filter. So washing machines are actually the largest source of microplastics into the environment. They account for over 35% of the total microplastics pollution. And it's the single largest point source of anything out there. So CleanR has developed an external filter, so sort of like a retrofit that sits on top of your washing machine. And then you basically take the outlet hose of your washing machine, plug it on. We send you a new hose. You put it on the outlet back into the wall. And then we're able to remove over 90% of the microplastics that otherwise would have been emitted out into the environment. And then we're able to remove them for easy disposal and recycling.
Very interesting technology. So what actually motivated you to develop the CleanR filtration system?
I mean, really what motivated us was the size of the problem. And the more that we learned about it, the more widespread we realized it was. I mean, 35% of total microplastics going out into the environment simply from your clothes. I mean, first, we didn't even really understand how that could be the case, and nobody was talking about it because clothing's everywhere. And over 60% of textiles are actually made of synthetic clothing. And then even the ones that aren't synthetic, like your cottons, usually have different types of additives on top of them that are plastic and that you still don't want in your body or out in the environment. So as you look around it, you really can't not think about this particular problem. And it also resonates at home when you take the dryer lint sheet out and you have to scrape all of that microfiber off. It starts to become pretty obvious. And then you get really into the weeds and you start looking in your food. And if you take certain foods and look at them under the microscope, you'd be a little shocked at what you would find. It just kind of ballooned from there after we learned about the size of the problem. We were just sort of dedicated our lives to figuring out a way to solve it. Yeah,
such a big problem as you described. Before we actually get into that a little bit more detail, how would you describe what is unique, particularly about the filtration system that you have developed compared to other solutions out there? I'm assuming that other people have also tried to address this problem.
They have. And I think we have a few unique value propositions. The first of which is our technology is really biomimicry inspired, and that allows us to do a couple of things. Number one, we're able to make our technology remove the most microplastics out of the technologies that are on the environment. So we're able to remove 90% of microplastics down to 50 microns in size. We've tested that with pretty much every methodology that we could think of in our labs in Cleveland, and we've been able to really validate the removal of microplastics. Then after you're able to actually remove the microplastics, the question is, first, are consumers going to use your technology? And we've focused very heavily on making sure that the experience is easy to clean these microfibers out. And we're able to clean the filter in under 30 seconds per week. And then there's a core filter that needs to get cleaned, and it takes about 2 minutes every month. But the actual commitment of time is really low to make sure that consumers would be willing to actually use the filter. And then the third piece is how are manufacturers actually going to be able to integrate this solution internal to the washing machine? Because that's really our big vision is how do we work with the washing machine manufacturers to get these devices inside the machine, just like the dryer lint filter. And our technology in particular doesn't require any motors. It doesn't require any pumps. and it's actually smaller than any other technology that requires those items. So for a manufacturer, it's really the simplest integration possible because A, you can put it anywhere without these pumps and motors. And then B, we actually have two core units. We have a separation and a collection unit. And you can separate those and put them at different locations inside of the washing machine. And
Right.
those combinations of thinking through that whole process, I think really differentiates us as optimizing within the design space of creating an effective microplastics filter.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So how long has this been in development, and what were the early key challenges that you faced in the development and implementation?
It's been in development now for over 2 years that we've been doing it every day. So it's really exciting for us to be working up to revealing our products and technology. So we're very excited about that. But yeah, along the way, there's a lot of challenges. You'd be shocked. At first, it seems easy, like, okay, all we have to do is filter this out. And then you kind of get into the weeds. Oh, yeah. It always seems easier than it is. But it's actually cotton towels that are the most challenging, which is kind of interesting. But really what happens is the cotton can form this paper on the filter, and it's a lot harder to filter out than any like synthetic material. So it's really around cotton loads, being able to filter it out and being able to filter down to a microplastics level that people actually can be making a difference by installing these filters. So the combination of filtering really small but not clogging is one key challenge. And then the second key challenge is how do you actually make a filter that consumers want to use? Because no consumer wants to touch this icky, wet gunk all the time, especially not after every load of laundry or every few loads of laundry. Nobody's ever really going to want to touch any gunk at all. And if they do, we have to be very sure that they're not going to take it over to the sink and wash it all away.
Yeah, that's
because then our 2 years of development sort of go down the sink with the microfibers that we just collected.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's a real challenge. When we start to think about this, as a bigger problem, global problem, in your opinion, how did we get to this point? Why is there so much microplastic pollution in your opinion?
I mean, it's tough sometimes to make plastic the enemy, because plastic has done a lot of really good things for humanity. As you look at medical, as you look at food, as you look at different technologies, there are a lot of implementations where plastic has been very helpful. But as the plastic usage soars, you also start to see the downsides of those plastics. So, while I think it's more single-use plastics, there's fast fashion, and then there was the unexpected impact of having tiny microfibers that are getting out into the environment. And, I think now it's becoming more and more obvious to people how big of a problem some of these downstream impacts of plastic usage are. But it wasn't something that we were aware of when plastics were on the rise, particularly because of all of the technological benefits that certain plastics can have. That being said, now we are aware that 8 out of 10 people have microplastics in their blood, that these microplastics are able to degrade down into nanoplastics that can potentially cross the blood-brain barrier, that, pretty much all of fish have ingested some sort of microplastic in their lifetime. I think I even saw a statistic that there are more microplastics in the ocean than potentially stars in our galaxy. So the downstream impacts have hit us. And the question is, what are we going to do now to stop it? Because microplastic pollution is expected to double by 2050. So the time is really now to make a change.
And, microplastics or microfibers from textiles is a big contribution, right? This is a big problem. And is that true? Is that the largest contributor?
Yeah, it's the single largest contributor. So it accounts for 35% of the microplastics that are emitted out into the environment. And fortunately, legislators are starting to pick up on that. So France has passed legislation that requires microplastic filters on all newly produced washing machines by January 1st, 2025. So France has really set this bar of fighting microplastic pollution, particularly from washing machines. And the rest of the globe is starting to look at that and respond. So the UK has actually thought about introducing legislation. You have states in the United States that are thinking about introducing legislation. You have Canada, you have Australia. So I think France has really set the playing ground of the fight against microplastics. And you're going to see that continue across a global trajectory as everybody realizes how big of a problem this is.
Yeah, yeah, sure. That's obviously great to hear. And yeah, it's always good to see someone lead first, right? It always takes that first person, and then the domino effect will happen. I'm sure.
Exactly.
In order to address this problem. On a more positive note, let's talk about impact. Can you share some success? Can you share some success stories of how the CleanR filtration system, has made a positive impact so far?
I think I can speak the most to that through all of our testing results that we've done and looking at the efficiency of microplastic removal and really where we've set up our bar to meet the French legislation. So the first and most important characteristic of a microplastic filter is that it is actually removing the microplastics from the water. So that's really where we've set our bar and all of our attention on the microplastic removal efficiency. We've done it in multiple different ways to test how we're actually removing those microfibers. So I think the best way to think about the success is when you actually use the filter, you can see after every load what you're removing from the environment that otherwise would have gone out with your laundry. Yep. And it's shocking. It's scary. And I think when other consumers get to see it and use it, they're going to feel the same thing that our core team does when we use the filter. So I think we're really excited to show people what that looks like. And we're excited for people to start using our filters in 2024.
So, what do you think your overall impact, if you achieved widespread adoption of your technology or of your filtration system, how big an impact do you think you can make over the next few years?
Yeah, I think with widespread implementation, we have the opportunity to reduce and remove the single largest point source of microplastics into the environment. And we have the opportunity to stop that before microplastic pollution doubles in size by 2050. And we also have the opportunity to stop microplastics from getting into our bodies, really before we learn of the drastic impacts that it might have. And I think that's the other part of the scariness about microplastics is they're so new. We don't know what it's going to do inside of our bodies. And as these microplastics get out, particularly from the washing machine, you can still capture them when they're coming out of the washing machine. But as they break down in the environment and they tumble around and they go through all of the different pieces in their chain that they do, they become uncapturable when they break down into nanoplastics. And at that point in time is when it gets really scary. So I think the time to stop the cycle is really now and to make sure that we are capturing these microplastics at the source while they still can be captured before we learn of something that is really quite scary about the health impacts of microplastic ingestion.
Okay, great. That's really positive, I think. So let's talk a little bit about the future then. What are your long-term goals for CleanR's technology? Obviously, with its eventual integration into washing machines globally. What are your goals?
Our goal is to have a microplastics filter in every washing machine that's produced globally. We think it's a problem no matter what washing machine you have, no matter where that washing machine is. And we think it's a problem that has a clear solution that's available now. And, that combination of things coupled with the scariness of microplastics, I think will really lead us to a part where we have a big problem and we have a solution that we can implement on a global scale to make a global impact. So I think that's really step one for us. And then we've actually designed the technology where we feel it can be implemented across other areas where there are also microplastic pollution. So washing machines for us is really just the start. We would like to take our technology and apply it in other industries where there's also a wide array of microplastic pollution and remove and prevent other sources. Because while 35% is a great chunk, there's still 65% of the problem out there that needs to get tackled. So that's our big vision. We really want to get every washing machine in the world to have a microplastics filter, and we want to scale until we're removing microplastics from all of the big sources.
Yeah, great. I get it. It's a very clear vision. So what do you think is the biggest challenge or risk that could stop that from happening?
It's always challenging, I think, to make a new experience for a consumer and to really try to think through and implement and design what somebody's going to be willing to do, and make sure that it's not too big of a hassle. So for us, I think the biggest challenge is we're designing microplastics filters, and we're asking consumers to step up and to do their part in the cleaning of this filter. And I think, to me, the question is, how much can we iterate and land on the spot where consumers feel this goodness that they're doing something to solve this really big problem, but also that we're not making them give up too much of their time to do it. And I think that gap is really where technology can come into play and make sure that consumers are willing to do it and the problem's getting solved. And I think that's the biggest risk, but it's also CleanR's biggest strength, because we've really focused on that gap and solving that gap with technology. And we will continue to do so because that's just a core part of who CleanR is.
Okay, great. So are you optimistic about the future in general, not only for CleanR, but for us going forward environmentally?
I am optimistic about the future. I think that podcasts like these, I think that technologies that are being rolled out, everybody's starting to put a big focus on environmental impact, environmental factors, and what can I do to actually make a difference. And I think that technology is to the point now where, even though we didn't see some of these downstream impacts as the technology scaled up and was exciting, it's to the point where we can now solve those downstream impacts with technology. And I think we've gotten smarter through the development of technology that we can think more ahead and make sure that we don't have any of these other downstream impacts. But I am optimistic about the future. I think that technology now more than ever has the opportunity to come in, help the environment, and make sure that the gap between what needs to be done for the environment and what people are willing to do, that there is no gap, and that gap can be solved with technology.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And I think, technology definitely can address these problems. And, definitely with guys like yourself, CleanR, and the technologies you're bringing and pushing will definitely give us a lot of optimism for the future, as well as, the countless other technology companies, startups, or whatever, whether that's addressing microplastics or food waste. These are all really, really critical things. So thank you for addressing these problems and coming up with real solutions, really, really smart solutions to really really important issues that we must address today, because this is a real really important thing we must solve. So thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, and of course, good luck, and we'll be definitely following you along your journey, and we'll be really happy to do that over the coming months and years, of course, as we follow your success, which I'm sure you'll get.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.